Tell me about yourself and why you feel you are qualified for this management position.
I've spent my short amount of time in nursing working in the emergency room where you're constantly juggling many responsibilities and surprises on every shift. The emergency room is nothing that can be prepared for or rehearsed, which I feel like helps in reacting to management situations. There's a specific experience within my career that will help to be qualified for the management position because working in that somewhat uncontrolled environment helps you be able to not only make these decisions but confidently rely on your own judgment while leaning on the others around you for support and encouragement. I feel like this is very similar to being a part of management because you must be confident in your own decisions and believe that you can pick out what's best for not only you but also a group of people who are kind of in the same situation as you, but you'll always have others there to back you up, support you, help you, and encourage you. You must also be able to react to a situation in an appropriate amount of time with the appropriate reaction or decision. Working in the emergency room has helped with also my delegation skills that I feel like are very crucial to management positions. You have to be able to hand off certain tasks to the appropriate people and trust that they'll be carried out to make the most out of the time and resources you have at the present time in the present situation. These two may be completely different worlds in the terms of nursing, considering med-surg and the emergency room, but I feel like they carry a lot of the same necessary qualities and requirements of the job.
What is your style of leadership? What style do you prefer your supervisors to display and why?
I feel like my style of leadership is probably closest to the democratic leadership. This style involves a lot of being involved and being active in your unit with your coworkers, with your staff. I feel like this is important because it's hard to know what's going on in your unit, feeling what your staff is feeling, know the issues that they're going through, unless you've put yourself in the position and are experiencing it personally. So this style of management would be active with the other staff. It would take their opinions and thoughts into consideration and keep everyone actively involved and incorporated in the decisions. I personally like for my supervisors to have some sort of balance of all styles. All people are made up different and carry different strengths and weaknesses. So I feel like you have to be able to effectively work with all these people. So a healthy balance would help to be able to take all these people into consideration and react to them appropriately.
Describe the core values that are most important to you and why.
The most important core value to me is being able to be the patient advocate. Being drawn into a healthcare profession shows passion that you want to care for other people. There are people in this profession who don't carry the passion I feel appropriate for this career, and I feel it shows in their work each day. I personally made the choice to want to help these patients every day, and I feel like it's my job to give them the best care at all times. Having the medical knowledge that I have that most patients don't have, I feel it's my responsibility to educate them, to kind of translate all of the medical language and jargon into things that they would be able to understand and be able to make educated decisions on. I feel like this would make my care more appropriate and to the best of my ability. These patients rely on us medical workers every day and sometimes with their life in our hands, so I feel like this isn't something that should be taken lightly.
Give an example of a model of care that you believe is effective in delivering high quality, fiscally responsible care.
I feel like infection control would be very effective in delivering high quality, fiscally responsible care. Billions of dollars are spent each year on patients who come into the hospital for one thing and are hospitalized and spend more time or require more care than what they originally were there to be seen for. These issues typically aren't paid for by insurance because they or something that happened within the hospital aside from what they came in presenting with. They're usually tend to develop from lack of care to detail or not following through with expected plans of care. Hospital acquired infections like catheter associated urinary tract infections, hospital acquired pneumonia, pressure wounds, all of those are common in our hospital here, and I believe that more education and accountability could encourage better results in the model of care to hopefully in turn decrease the occurrences of these infections and save a large percent of this money, not only within our hospital, but hopefully in the healthcare system as a whole.
List 3 skills that you feel are most important for managers to use when leading an interdisciplinary team. To what extent do you possess these skills?
To me, effective communication, flexibility, and probably confidence are the most important skills managers should possess when working with an interdisciplinary team. My personal work experience in nursing has helped to build these skills for me and encourages me to personally work on these skills on a daily basis. I've seen firsthand how far effective communication can take you, and I've seen the benefits and consequences on both sides of the battle. I know personally how taking a couple extra minutes out of your day to make sure your communication is clear and precise and in the right tone can help you later on and save a lot of headache and confusion within a situation. This has helped to draw attention and effort to my communication skills personally to strive to make them better each day and try to make the most out of every situation from the communication standpoint. Flexibility is a skill that is very important in any job, but especially important in healthcare. Nursing is a profession where there's no 2 days that are expected to be the same. Anything can happen within a given day. Dealing with these days has not only helped me to become professionally flexible in the workplace, but also in my home life. Last, I feel like confidence is very important in leadership. You have to have some confidence within yourself, but know how not to take it too far and not to be too caught up in yourself. I struggled initially with the confidence in myself, being a new nurse and being in a new environment and doing something I'd never done before. But being put into the positions often where you have to make your own decisions and rely on your decisions firsthand and then later on may get a chance to think about them has, I feel like, quickly developed a skill for me.
What management skills are you lacking? What is your plan for developing these skills?
I would have to say a management skill that I'm lacking is probably leadership in itself. I've been a leader of smaller positions and jobs within my career, but I've never carried the official title of a manager or a supervisor. I think the only way to develop this skill would be to gain new experience in the role and work on myself personally in the meantime. I'm pretty new to the nursing field, but I've spent the time learning about the different types of leaders and managers within it and seeing what each of the jobs do and the background behind the jobs. After gaining the knowledge, I feel like I'm not more knowledgeable in the expectations and the backgrounds of the positions, so I think I'm in a good place professionally to begin gaining the experience as a manager and developing and growing the skills and characteristics that come with the job. I'm open to any constructive criticism to make me better at the job, and I'll work daily to not only better myself, but hopefully to better our department as a whole.
In what ways are planning and budgeting related? What factors would you consider when planning the budget?
Planning and budgeting are related in many ways. You must first plan a budget ahead of time to properly allocate money, staff, etc. to make sure that things are sufficiently covered not only for the present but also for the future, regardless of if it's a week, a month, or a year. If you're effective in the budgeting, whether it be the money, the staffing, the supplies, or whatnot, you should have it all planned out in advance. Have some flexibility built in for unexpected events so that those don't cause chaos when they arise. You should be able to make it all last for the allotted amount of time there again, whether it be a month or what's most common, a year. You should always take into account the past budgets, how they've went, how they were projected, how they actually ended up, the future events that could arise, things that are expected and things there again that are not expected. All amounts available, whether it be the money or the staffing or the hours, supplies. Know what is expected and required within the budget and the department, and know all operating costs involved to be able to build them in as well. I feel like you have to have the knowledge pertaining to both planning and budgeting to be able to accurately carry this out. It's also important to know what type of budgeting and planning has been used previously within department and how that's went for them to be able to know how to best move forward.
Let's assume that you are hired into this position and that the budgeting process has already been completed by the previous manager. You notice that the budget does not include enough money to cover staffing expenses for 3 months of the fiscal year. What steps would you take?
If put to this position, I would initially try to cut costs where appropriate in hopes to make up for the months that were not covered. While I wouldn't see it beneficial to cut costs to any extreme that would create a stressful or unsafe situation for the unit, I do foresee that there being opportunities to safely and efficiently cut costs. I know that in our unit now there's a big issue with travel nursing. I think that would be a possible avenue to address to see if we could maybe focus more on having more in-house nurses and less travel nurses, which are obviously more expensive to our department. We also cut down on nurse turnaround in that aspect. As we are training nurses to stay on our department, we're not continuously training these travel nurses to come in for the 13-week increments and then turn around and train a separate one to come in and do what they were already trained to do. I also think that you could start looking into hours by current staff, try to utilize the staff who are not in overtime or who are not approaching their maximum budgeted hours for the week to be able to afford more hours by these nurses instead of paying overtime for those who have already worked their amount of hours. You could also more closely monitor the clocking in and out times of the staff, even cutting 5 minutes off of each staff member in the morning and the night will essentially at the end of the year turn into maybe creating a whole new position. And I feel like these are all ways that you could look into budgeting and saving money that wouldn't really put a burden on the department itself.
How would you describe your level of emotional intelligence? Give 2 examples of how your emotional intelligence has positively impacted a group or team.
I would like to think that I have a good balance of emotional intelligence. I feel like it's important to have some emotion on the job, as all or most normal human beings do, but you have to be able to be a professional in the sense where you know where to draw the line and separate yourself emotionally from the situation or the job that you're involved in. I was in a position at one time of a patient coming close to the end of their life, and they were just laying in their bed alone because there was no family present for whatever reason, whether it was they had no family in the area, the family hadn't gotten there yet, whatever it was. I did have other patients who I was caring for at the time, but I took a minute to put myself in the patient's position and thought about how they must be feeling. Not only is it the end of their life, but they're having to go through it alone. I took it upon myself then to get my patients cared for without putting anyone else in an unsafe situation or putting a burden on anyone else in the department. so I could personally spend some time with this patient. The patient did end up passing while I was present in the room, but it was important to me to not let them pass along, as nobody should have to go out of this world in that situation. Everyone on my team had commented on how they would love to have the opportunity to do the same and would have taken the same approach as I did. And they all seemed to be touched by the efforts for a patient who less than an hour before that I'd never even met. On the other hand, we get many patients each day who are criminals, whether it be drugs, rapes, murder, whatever that may be, drug addicts, abusive, all kinds of patients are presented to us, some who we know none of their history, some we know all of their history. Our personal emotions typically want to try to take over in these situations and cause us to be cold and uncaring for these patients. But we as nurses are responsible for knowing when to shut our own emotions off and care for these patients as the professional that we are or we should be, and care for them in the same sense that we would care for any other regular patient out there. I try to do this every day while working, and not only do it myself, but try to remind and encourage my coworkers to do the same so that we can give the best uniform care out there.
Is there anything else you feel would be important for me to know about your qualifications to lead and manage the Med-Surg units?
While my nursing career hasn't been that long in as far as time length, I feel like it's went pretty far in personal gain and experience for me. After being in my position as a registered nurse for only about a year and a half or so, and that time including a 26-week orientation period where I was in class several days a week and was following a preceptor for the other days of the week, I was asked to first become a forensic nurse examiner and then go to the class to then transition into a nurse preceptor. I had never really taken these leadership roles into consideration for myself at this point because I assumed that they were something that would need 5-10 years of experience in the department before you could move up to them. So, and I think that was evident when they were offered to me, as I was explained that they're not so much in time lengths per se, but more of dedication, determination, willingness to do the job, which obviously they said was all fitting to me. I feel like this says a lot about my determination and my willingness to grow. I hope that you would give me the opportunity to add more to my experience and to continue to grow with your department. I'm also very interested in not only growing within myself, but growing the department as a whole. I feel like anything is achievable if you set small goals, set your mind to it, get your coworkers and other staff on board. Then nothing will be out of reach. There's opportunities to learn and change yourself within each day, within each shift, within each hour. You just have to be able to acknowledge these instances and open your mind to them. I hope this is what this new position would do for me and would not only grow my experience, but continue my education, continue my learning experiences, and add new experiences to my book.